Ni hao, hi everyone. Welcome back to Teacher World. I'm happy that you are tuning in with me today, and we're going to get right into it. Today we're going to talk about the differences working for a private language center or a public school. Stay tuned. So if you're anyone like me, then you would be thinking, what is the difference working for a private language center or a public school? Does it even matter? Now, I'm here to tell you that it does matter, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. Now, when I decided to teach abroad, I applied for a private language center, EF, and when you're working at an institution or a private language center, you do get some benefits as far as hotel accommodation because you don't have your apartment yet. The flight is paid for, so you don't pay anything out of your pocket. With most language centers, they help you get situated. You do get a bonus for completing your probation. Now, when I worked for English First, my probation was 2 months. I received a $300 flight voucher. I also received help getting my bank information. I also received help getting a phone that I can use, and I did receive help finding an apartment. Wow. So once again, like I said before, there is a designated person that works with all the foreign teachers to help them get situated working in that different environment. And that's all beneficial. But now, even with all of that, there may be some things with a private language center that you're not satisfied with. So for example, working for a private language center, you have to make everything a game. I think I've mentioned this before, that everything is made into a game so that the students can understand whatever it is that you are teaching them. Teaching is not the same structure as it would be if you were teaching at a public school or a charter school or any school. Everything is like, paced out. Like, you do this, you do what I do, you do what we do, you do what you do. The students do their independent work. It's not the same thing when you're working in a private language center, okay? You have students who are just sitting in the classroom in a small group setting. I remember that whatever class I was teaching, I taught kids and teens, and the age ranged from 3 to 18 years old. Depending on the group of students I was teaching for that day, maybe it was 5-year-olds, maybe it was 12-year-olds, but whatever group of students I was working for that particular day, the length of time that I would teach will depend on the group. I think maybe a group of students who are about 5 years old or so, the session would be for 1 hour. After you teach for that 1 hour, then you'll have a break. The lessons were already prepared. I didn't have to write lesson plans. I would just follow the script, follow this manual, and of course I'll add my own flavor into it, but I didn't have to type up lesson plans. No, I didn't have to type up lesson plans, but I would do research and I would just look into the different elements that I wanted to incorporate in the instruction so that the students can understand. At the end of the day, whatever it is that you're teaching, you want them to speak the language. You want them to use language in a way that they feel comfortable with, okay? You want to use visuals. You want to get the students up and out of their seat. You want them moving around, okay? Students are not just sitting there all throughout the entire time for 1 hour, hour and a half. No, you got to get them moving. Make things a game. When you make things a game, students will understand. Working for and when I was working for EF, my salary was 13,000 renminbi. So 13,000 renminbi was equivalent
to $2,166 and some change.
And I was getting paid on a monthly basis. So if you are not used to getting paid on a monthly basis, that is something that you're going to have to get used to, because the pay and frequency of when you get paid is different. So I had to get used to that, but the cost of living in China was very affordable, and I paid 500 USD monthly for my apartment. Now, working for a public school, what was that like? So working for a public school in China, I would have to say that it was something to get used to, but there were benefits I had from that job as well. So I got a higher salary. So I went from making 13,000 renminbi to making 15,000 renminbi, and 15,000 renminbi
equivalent to 2,500 US dollars.
So I got the increase there. Then this is, oh my gosh, phenomenal. I was looking at my schedule a few minutes ago. I only taught, check this out. If you look at the schedule right here, this schedule shows you back in 2016 the number of classes that I would teach during the whole week. Okay, so Monday through Friday, these are the classes. But check out Monday. Do you see Monday only shows one class? First grade. The class sessions are 45 minutes, similar to what we have in the United States. But I taught that one class for that day. I had a 2-hour lunch break from 12 to 2, and I was free the rest of the day. My day actually didn't start. Do you see the time? You see the time that it says? That was when my day started. That's when my instruction started. But of course, I would report to the school at 8 a.m. I believe 8 a.m. was the report time for all teachers. So I would report there, but I had time to plan lessons. I had time to prepare materials. I had time to just pretty much do whatever I want in the office until it was time for me to teach my class for 45 minutes. And then I'm out the door and I'm getting ready for lunch because lunch starts at 12 p.m. And then you can see the rest of my schedule. Maybe some days I taught 2 classes. Maybe one day I think you see on the schedule it was 3 classes. But that was my work day. Now there was 2 afternoons, I remember, that I would have to teach an after-school program. So the after-school program ran for an hour. I believe it was from like 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. But I would teach maybe arts and crafts, maybe something related to Western etiquette. Recall on the benefits working for a public school, besides the increase in salary, besides the less stress on the teacher when it comes to planning and the number of classes I taught per week. I didn't have to write lesson plans. I did not have parent-teacher conferences. I did not have to grade papers. My job was to teach English as a foreign language, and that was it. That was a benefit for me, because if you're a teacher in the United States or maybe your home country, I don't know what it's like teaching in different countries as a teacher, but I know in the United States, you are worked. You are worked. You are worked. And it's almost to the point that you get burnt out because of how much you are involved in the learning process and the teaching process. It's a lot on teachers. So when I went to China and I was teaching at a public school, you get, those layers of stress starts to melt away because it's a different system. It's less pressure on you as a teacher, and you're not involved doing so many things. Lesson planning for me takes a long time. It takes a long time. It takes pretty much my whole weekend. There could be other teachers out there that know what I'm talking about. Lesson planning does take a long time, right? I feel like I have no life sometimes because all I'm doing is lesson planning. So when I was teaching in China, no. Lesson planning, no, my dear. You did not have to do that. So that is benefit. And summer holiday. You had your summers off. That's a bonus right there, because during the summer, don't you want to travel? Don't you want to travel back home and see your family? When I was working at a private language center, well, I only worked there for 4 months, but that's another story. We'll talk about that some other time. But if I completed my whole contract, my 1-year contract at the private language center, during the summer, you were only given 10 days off. How am I going to travel back home in 10 days? It takes you just about 2 days just to make it back home when you're leaving from China. Then in 2 days, you're going to need to come back to China. That's 4 days right there. So benefits. Now, if I had to decide, leaving from my home country, do I want to work for a private language center or for a public school? I would most definitely choose a public school, or even international schools. International schools, they work the same way as a public school. Whatever country you're deciding to teach in, it works the same way, but you do have students working at an international school from all different backgrounds. You have teachers from all different backgrounds, and the school is implementing a curriculum similar to maybe the United States or the UK. When I was teaching in China at the public school, we did not use an American curriculum or UK curriculum. The Chinese teachers taught what they taught, those different content areas, and they used Chinese resources and Chinese materials. But when it came to me teaching English, I had to use the resource and material to teach the language, but I incorporated my methodologies, my styles of teaching, things that I would incorporate as a teacher in the United States. I brought those same teaching techniques with me. Okay, so you are free to teach however you want to teach, but whatever the sentence structure is for that day, coming from that resource that you're given by the school, you would have to follow the instruction. But just put your own flavor to it. Put your own spin to it. Do you, because it's you in the classroom with those students. Also, speaking about being in the classroom with the students, I forgot to mention the number of students that I had working in the Chinese public school was like 50 students. And I'm not exaggerating. It was literally 50 students. Take a look right there. Do you see that class size? That's 50 students right there. Now, compared to private language center, I had a small group, maybe 12 students the max. And I had a Chinese co-teacher with me when I was teaching at the private language center. But I remember when I first started teaching at the Chinese public school, I walked into the classroom by myself. Oh, oof. It was hard. It was hard because the students was doing their own thing. Me walking into that classroom didn't even matter. I was teaching first grade. It was like first grade, second grade. Like my presence made no difference being in that classroom. I was the first foreign teacher these students ever saw. So it was like, wow, we have, like amazement, we have a foreign teacher. But the students did not show me respect the same way that they would show their Chinese teachers. Okay, it was difficult for me as a foreigner to teach the students. And how can you teach a class of students when you don't have control of the classroom? It's difficult. You're not getting anything done. But I tried my best. Okay, certain things as teachers we know to do to get classes' attention didn't work. Turning off the lights didn't work. Okay, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me definitely didn't work. So you're trying different things. You're learning that these things that we do in the United States as teachers works in the United States. If teacher in the United States, but maybe other teachers in different home countries, maybe there's certain things that you do to get your class's attention. But then when you're teaching in a country that's different from your norms, your traditions, and educational system, then you have to learn their ways. How was I able to get their attention? I guess trying to speak Chinese. So I just did my best. Basically, that's all I'm telling you is do your best, do what you can do, but don't be frustrated. Like, I'm going to tell you don't be frustrated, but how can I tell you don't be frustrated? Don't give up. That's the word that I'm looking for. Don't give up. It's not going to be easy, but don't give up, right? If this one way don't work, if plan A don't work, then go to plan B. Plan B don't work, then go to C. And if C don't work, then try D, E, F, G. Try everything that you can, and something will get better. Something's going to work as long as you don't give up. And it may not work when you want it to work. It may not work right away. But that's why you keep on with anything in life, right? Anything that you're doing in life, it may not work out the way you want it to work out, when you want it to work out. But when you persevere and you keep on, it will all pay you off at the end. Eventually, they paired a Chinese co-teacher in the classroom with me. It wasn't until 2016, I believe, that I was paired up with a Chinese co-teacher, and that made all the difference for me. Maybe there's other foreign teachers that was able to have control of the classroom. I don't know. And if there are, I'm curious to know how did that work out? But because all I could tell you was for me in the classroom, it did not work out for me the best way that I wanted it to work out as far as having control of the classroom of 50 students, 50 first graders and 50 second graders. No, I'm going to be quite honest. It did not work for me. So when I was paired up with a Chinese co-teacher, that made all the difference. You should see. Oh my gosh. If I have images, I will show you. The students were well behaved. I mean, they sat like this at their desks. They're raising their hands to answer questions. Like it was order. It was order. It was structure. The students would listen. They would learn. Okay? You always get the teacher, let me try. When you ask a question, teacher, let me try. You know, they want to speak, but they just want to learn the language. They want to learn and they're curious. But I was able to teach in a way that I wanted to teach because I had the Chinese co-teacher with me. And thank goodness for all of them. I was paired up with male co-teachers, I was paired up with female co-teachers, depending on the classroom that I was teaching in, and that worked out. So if you're deciding where it is that you want to work, whether it's a private language center or a public school, or maybe even an international school, I keep saying public school because when I was working in China, I was the only foreign teacher with I wasn't the only foreign teacher. It was me and another foreign teacher, and all the other teachers were Chinese. Okay, so whatever you're deciding, if you want to work for a private language center or a public school, whether it's, public school, you just decide, where do you think it would be a better fit for you? Do you think that you can handle working in a private language center but not really having the time for summer vacation because you don't get that time off? Does that not bother you? The style of teaching, does that not bother you? I mean, I don't know. You just have to figure out what's best for you. So based on the information I'm sharing with you, use that as your judgment call, as well as doing research, looking at different institutions to work for. Now, if you're going to work for, I should have mentioned this, if you're going to work for a private language center, minimum requirements is having a bachelor's degree and having a TEFL certificate, teaching English as a foreign language. Okay, but if you're going to work for an international school, public schools, you need a teaching certification. That is required, along with your bachelor's degree, along with your master's if you have it. Bachelor's is a minimum degree requirement. If you have a TEFL certificate, you're going to need that because TEFL certificates are needed to teach abroad or online. And you have a lot of strict requirements in that regards. But regardless, if you apply for a private language center or you're applying to work at a public school, those institutions will get you set up with a working visa. That's not your responsibility to get. It is their responsibility to provide the working visa for you. So I hope this information is helpful. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment. But my question to all of you who are watching this video, do you want to work for a private language center or do you want to work for an international school? Let me know. I'll see you next time. Bye.